Hello, I'm Justine Willis-Toms. Welcome to the New Dimensions Cafe. Today, I'm hosting Angela Manno, iconographer and creator of the Sacred Biodiversity Oracle. I'm speaking with Angela where she's staying in Scotland by remote connection. Angela, welcome to the New Dimensions Cafe.
Thank you so much, Justine. It's wonderful to be here with you.
I'd love for you to share why it's important to look beyond the egocentric human worldview and attune with animals and plants with whom we share this planet. So why is that important?
Well, there's two reasons. One is a spiritual reason. We are all connected. And to be separate is a deep wound in the human psyche that I don't even think we realize. So the other issue, obviously, is that we're dependent on all of the animals and ecosystems for our very existence. So you could say that it is both spiritual and existential. That would be the reason for connecting and to really entering the world of reality instead of this, Thomas Berry used to call it a trance that we're in, that we're separate. So we need to come out of that trance before it's really too late.
Tell us about your own experience of feeling that kinship with other livingness on this planet.
Well, I could give you examples of just camping. You know, if you've done that, you're really very subject to the elements, and or just by having a pet and having that intimate relationship with an animal that's not human. I think there are many ways to do it. The way that I've tried to offer people who may not yet, who may not have the opportunity to go out into nature for any reason, these icons that I've created of these threatened and endangered species it's a way to connect. Or if you have the good fortune to do something like the Council of All Beings that was developed by John Seed and Joanna Macy, where you actually take on the identity of another animal and use your intuition, which is what you do when you're using the Sacred Biodiversity Oracle. You can participate imaginatively in the life of other animals. So, and it's also very important to understand, because that's the beginning of that's like in Buddhism, they talk about understanding and compassion, and they go together. So you need to understand, even in an intimate relationship, you have to understand that other person. And so where you have been so separate from the rest of the living world that we don't understand it anymore. And I don't know what they're teaching in schools anymore, but you know, they're teaching a lot of science and math and technology, and I think the arts and the earth science is languishing. So that has to come back into our experience in order to draw us closer to the rest of the living world.
I must say, in my own life, like going back to my high school days, what saved me, because my father and my little brother died suddenly, and suddenly my whole world was different when I entered high school. And what saved me was the arts, in like the singing and the visual arts, and then riding horses. Those were the two things that, more than math or science or English class, that's what really held me and saved me in a deep spiritual way.
Well, growing up, I mean, we had a little bit of woods behind us, and I was always back there, you know, exploring, and I do have horses in my background as well, so I can totally understand. Everything that you're describing is physical. The arts are physical. Horseback riding, you know, sports. There's something that's we're losing that, in terms of the education of children. They'd rather sit inside and play video games rather than go outside. And I don't even know if there's an outside to go out to anymore for most people. That's something that needs to be brought back in a very urgent way.
In the 36 cards that you have created in this Sacred Oracle of Biodiversity, let's talk about one of the images, because you've studied iconography actually with a very famous Russian iconographer, and it's more like the traditional icons that you've studied, the cards that you have presented for us. One is called the orangutan, and it's a card that shows the mother and child icon. Like we see many icons of Mother Mary with the babe Jesus. And here's the orangutan mother with her babe. So speak about how that image came to you.
Well, you go online and you can just see thousands of still photographs and videos of orangutans. Obviously, I haven't been well, I was in Indonesia once, but not to Sumatra. And I've never seen a live orangutan. But, it's obvious that all animals are sentient. They all love, they all feel, they all care for their young. And so that particular image, it's one of two, I think, where I have multiple images. The other one is the emperor penguin, where the parent is feeding the chick. And I hesitated just for a brief nanosecond when I did it, because I thought, oh, this is going to offend, the people who, venerate the Virgin and Child and stuff. But you know what? It is the exact opposite. I mean, I was commissioned by the Vatican to do a opening prayer to Pope Francis, to the celebration of Laudato Si, the 7th anniversary of Pope Francis's encyclical. So I can't be doing that bad if see, I think that consciousness is or our love is widening. I mean, the Laudato Si movement is very important in that, because it is something that the Catholic Church is espousing now, and they have programs all over the world that are, sensitizing people and educating people and educating educators to perceive, to widen our love beyond the human.
I would love for you to say something about your relationship with Pope Francis.
Well, I wished I had met him. I really did. But I read Laudato Si, which is it's 180 pages, and I'm telling you, it's one of the most fantastic pieces of literature. In fact, Bill McKibben said the same thing. It's phenomenal. It's actually where I finally, when you're talking about Edward Abbey before, that people should be separate from nature so they don't mess it up. But Pope Francis has this idea of integral ecology, so that everything is if you view everything as connected, then the poor, particularly, are very impacted by ecological destruction. So it integrates. So people are important in that document as much as the natural world. So it's a really integral vision, and not something that I had read before. And it kind of goes against the more typical environmentalist ideology where, the earth would be better off without us, So that's not the Catholic teaching,
I love that. And I want to just have you say something about the cards themselves and how the little booklet that goes along with it suggests actually doing activities that start to integrate and start where we really begin to feel the sentient beings that these cards represent. And that goes back to the work of, I think, someone that you have worked with, Carl Safina.
Hmm.
So can you say something about Carl's work with animals as sentient?
Well, I read his book about elephants that he did it and their intelligence and how they communicate and how they feel for each other and how they care for each other. And that was, my first introduction to Carl Safina's work. And it's very important work because now, I mean, it's being investigated everywhere now, so it's not a secret.
That animals have feelings, they have personalities.
Even chickens, like, I don't hang out with chickens, but for people that do, they say each one of them has a personality, and we just see them as this smear of like one species. And because we're so separated, we don't have the opportunity to get to know these animals. So it's important to hear people like Carl Safina, who actually spent time, or Jane Goodall, or so many others, there are ambassadors, from the natural world. Um, and a lot of these people have influenced me. Although, I have my own connection.
What does that mean?
It's love. It's
Ah,
love for the natural world. It's love for creatures. It's love. I mean, I stopped eating meat. It was like I got to a certain point where, I didn't want to be party to that suffering. In fact, I just recently illustrated a book cover called Beyond Factory Farming, a contemplative prophetic approach to food by Jim Robinson, who was a professor at Iona College. And he was I had an exhibition at Iona College, and uh, he was like the person that finally tipped the scales, because he's a vegan. And I just realized, I can't, if like this idea of meaningful action is the antidote to despair. Well, when you stop eating meat, that's a huge impact, not only on your psyche, because I can sleep at night, but also, the more people that withdraw from that system, that factory farming system, the more kindness is introduced into our ways of consuming.
so what I think your work does and your art form does is it creates the opportunity for greater empathy with all of life.
Yes, I would say so. I mean, science tells us that we're all interconnected, right? Buddhism tells us that. And so um, I try and I try and get it across through my work, through my art, and through this new oracle, which gives everybody the opportunity to participate imaginatively in the life of each of these animals, and to let it penetrate. Um, and so you have the time. You can do it whenever you want. And my hope is that once people do the exercises in the book and they scan the QR codes that go to all of these amazing, there's actually 18 environmental organizations around the world, Philippines, Netherlands, Ecuador, Australia, and you can join the effort to reverse biodiversity loss.
That's what I love about this deck. As you say, science tells us we are not separate.
Hmm.
Okay, so that's a concept, that's information. But what this deck does and what you guide us through is an actual visceral participation in that connection. It's more than just knowledge, head knowledge or information. And as you say, at the end of all that connection and maybe writing and journaling and seeing with the heart,
You have to be moved. A movere, emotion, means to move. So that's what spurs us to action is that caring and compassion.
It becomes part of who we are then. And that's what I believe that the deck does for us. These 36 cards, if people take the time to look at them and to contemplate them and to see them from the heart center place. I want to thank you so much for creating this for us and giving us the opportunity to participate in all of life in our connection. Thank you so much, Angela.
Thank you, Justine. It's been a total pleasure to be with you.
Thank you. Thank you. I've been speaking with Angela Manno, iconographer and creator of the Sacred Biodiversity Oracle. And to learn more about her work, you can go to her website, angelamanno.com. And she spells her last name Manno, angelamanno.com. Or you can get there from the New Dimensions website, where you'll find over 2,000 programs in our archive. That's newdimensions.org. I'm Justine Willis-Toms. I want to thank you for joining us at the New Dimensions Cafe, and I invite you, please do join us again.